Okay, the City of Marine City Commission meeting is called to order on Thursday, September 5th at 7 o'clock p.m. We have a moment of silence to send our positive thoughts and prayers to those in our community that need our support. And now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you get roll call, please?
Commissioner Bryson. Here. Commissioner Hendrick. Here. Commissioner Clausen. Here. Commissioner O'Brien. Here. Commissioner Rourke. Here. Commissioner Ross. Here. Mayor Vandenbosch.
Here.
City Manager Atkins. Here.
Okay. On to 4, approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Support.
Before you finish all that, I'd like to move 8B, the trunk or treat, just because I got some questions, so that we can discuss it to 9A. That's it, if that's okay.
8B to 9A.
Amend the motion.
Do you amend?
I will amend my motion.
I will re-support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Presentations, proclamations, recognitions. First, we have 5A, Battle of the Bands. And I'll just actually discuss that. So on August 16th and 17th, we had the Battle of the Bands, and that was put on by the Marine City Lions Club. And on behalf of the Marine City Lions Club, I want to thank everybody who came out to support the event. If you're not familiar with it, it's a 2-night event. First night is the Friday night where we have 2 bands play. One band represents St. Clair, one band represents Marine City. We collect donations based on if you like the bands, what they're playing, or just because you want to support St. Clair or Marine City. And then on the second night, which was Saturday night, we had the same thing but with Algonac versus Marine City. And all the donations, all the vote money goes 100% to the schools for their sports boosters. And I'm proud to announce that on Friday night, St. Clair raised $1,200, and Algonac on Saturday night raised $4,200. And then Marine City, for a total of both nights, was $4,375. So I wanted to go ahead and, on behalf of the Marine City Lions Club, thank everybody who came out and supported that event and our sponsors, because they help us pay for the cost of the bands. We're able to do that, and all of the money that is raised through donation does go back to the schools and the sports boosters, so thank you. Okay. And now for 5B, the East China School District Building Site Sinking Fund Ballot Language Presentation.
Thank you. Mayor, may I be approached with some documents?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Good evening. I also want to thank the Lions Club for the supporting of the Battle of the Bands and the sports boosters for our schools. It's much appreciated. This evening, I would like to thank Marine City for having us here to talk just a little bit about the Building and Site Sinking Fund, known as a sinking fund, that will be on the November 5th ballot for East China School District. And the Building and Site Sinking Fund, which I will refer to as the Sinking Fund, is a dedicated fund that would allow us to use the money raised for repair and improvement of school facilities. It also lets us make purchases for safety and security, for technology upgrades, and also for bus purchases. The reason that a sinking fund is so important to school districts in Michigan is because the state of Michigan does not have a dedicated fund for schools to do these things. It would all have to come out of the general fund, which is what we used for curriculum and salaries for our teachers and the items needed for our classrooms. So anytime you need to make a repair or purchase a bus, you'd have to use the funds in your general fund. Now, in the past, East China School District has had a bus bond that we raised money to buy buses. That was in 2016. We had a tech bond that was in 2009. And so what the state of Michigan has done now is the sinking fund dollars that you raise from sinking can be used for all of those purchases. In the past, you would have to go out for a bus bond if you wanted to buy buses, a tech bond if you wanted to improve tech, and then a sinking fund for repair and upgrade of facilities. So what they've done, just to make things a little bit easier, is rolled it all into one sinking fund, and all of those expenses are now allowable when we need them. So in 2020, in March, right before COVID, our communities voted to approve a bond. It's known around as Bond 2020. It was an incredible show of support by our community for the school district in allowing us to upgrade our facilities. And so on the handout in front of you, this one will show, because I know there'll be questions by people like, we just passed the bond. What did those dollars go to, and what do you need a sinking fund for? So we tried to share what with the blue dots on your handout there. It shows all of the things that were done with our bond monies, and the orange dots are identified sinking fund priorities. So that I know is going to be a question in our community as to what bond dollars were used for and what the sinking fund would be used for over the next 10 years is what the proposal is for. And so I'm going to step aside and let our Director of Finance for East China School District, Angie Gleason, talk about the handouts a little bit and the dollars behind it. Angie? Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Another bit of information that's on the colorful flyer that we shared is the debt comparison. And we wanted to showcase what the area school districts or the surrounding school districts, what their millage rates are compared to ours. And currently, East China School District is at 2.34 mils. That first bar graph down there represents where we're currently at today. With the passage of the sinking fund millage in November, it would put us at 5.09, which really puts us on trend with the other school districts in the area that have sinking funds. Okay, and then if you move over to the multiple page document, that's our frequently asked questions that we've come across. And as we mentioned, this sinking fund will cover facility upgrades, safety and security measures, technology upgrades, and bus purchases. Another important piece on page 3 kind of itemizes really what that graphic on the colorful flyer has with the dots. It really showcases the orange dots, but in text. So you can look at it by location, by building, facility, and then see what the focuses are of those sinking fund dollars. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
The budget, the current budget that was proposed by Lansing is one of the concerns that.
Right. So the other thing that we wanted to share is that I know a lot of the media that's been pushed out about the state aid budget is really about how they're focusing on, or they're saying that the average is an increase of about $400 per student. And it's a little bit of that's not really the case for East China. We are getting some categorical dollars increased, but they're one-time dollars. There is no increase in our foundation allowance per student. When we take our enrollment decline that we're experiencing, I had budgeted 141 students decline, and with the increase that we've had over the last couple weeks with kindergarten enrollment, it's a little bit less than that. It's about 130 students that we're going to see as a decrease. So when you offset those students at the foundation allowance with this one-time allocation of categorical dollars, it's really, we really aren't seeing an increase. So we just really wanted to share that too. It's a little deceiving when you hear this, the state saying that, on average, it's a $400 increase per student.
The foundation allowance for all districts in the state of Michigan did not increase at all. We are anticipating the Senate and the House each propose somewhere around $250 increase, which has been about the average over the last, I'd say, 7-8 years. Has been the average student foundation allowance increase. And when the budget was approved by the governor, it was 0. So we're all having to go back to the drawing board to redo our budgets because ours are due before the state has to have theirs out, because the anticipated increase in foundation allowance just isn't there, which highlights the importance of having a sinking fund to have the dollars to do those repairs and upgrades that we need for technology and safety and security and for our buildings, because that foundation allowance or that state aid from the state of Michigan, it fluctuates. And we can never really know for sure what we're going to be getting each year. In my tenure, we had a year that we had a $411 decrease. They decided they were going to pull back. So it's important to have a fund, like a sinking fund, in place to take care of all the things you need to take care of when that budget from the state isn't as sound. Can we answer any questions?
Yes, I have some. By looking at this, so this is going to increase a lot. I mean, people so far right now are struggling severely with paying everything. This increase is really hard to look at for the increase. And then when you look at what's already been done, most of the stuff that says it's the bond project is the stuff that you're telling us it's going to be in the sinking fund. So I kind of wonder why the sinking fund wasn't used in the past to do the roofs and the windows and the floorings and the technology. I mean, you have all that as your bond project already. Why wasn't that addressed before, and why wasn't that done for the sinking fund? Now you're going to increase the sinking fund even more, and yet the bond's already taken care of the majority of this stuff, so what's it going to be used for, 20 years down the road?
Well, no, the orange dots on that graphic are the sinking fund, and the blue
Yeah.
dots are the bonds. So
Exactly.
they don't overlap.
I agree, but the sinking fund is saying it does roofs and HVAC and all that stuff, and the blue is the bond, and it says I'm doing the HVAC and the roofs, and I'm doing technology.
But
For not all-
not on
Not
all
all
buildings.
buildings.
The majority of them, I mean.
Right. But
Well, that was another thing, though. One of them's,
The part, so we took the bond money and, upgraded all of our facilities, but it's like building a home. You build the home and now we've got maintenance and we've got, roofs that aren't going to last, ever. We need to repair, we have HVAC equipment, we've got a lot of mechanical equipment across the school district. Today, for example, we had a valve at our Performing Arts Center for the fluid systems, for the fire system suppression, that has to be replaced. We cannot not replace it. It was a $25,000 unanticipated cost. And those things occur quite frequently. The school district is 144 square miles, and our buses travel a lot. We have a lot of different facilities in the bond. It was told, by the voting that our district wanted to maintain 2 separate St. Clair and Marine City facilities. And so that increased our square footage that we need to keep up and maintain and honor the fact that we wanted a separate St. Clair and Marine City and not a central high school. And so the number of buildings, the number of buses, our garages, our catch basins, all the things, that we don't think about often when we think about education are very important to upkeep, but are also very expensive to do.
yeah, but my point is, why wasn't the prior sinking fund used to do that? We had to put in a bond to fix everything that the sinking fund should have taken
Well,
care of.
the prior sinking fund was renewed a couple times, and it was 0.4 mils, like a small portion.
True, but now you're asking for it at a time when people just can't afford it. That's going to be the big kicker.
It is, and I understand, that, and we're all living it, but what puts us on par with our neighboring school districts. We're not asking, to be funded in a higher level. We just want to be on par with those around us and the dollars that they're operating with. And if you compare us, like if I were to pull out Marysville for an example, they have 1 high school, 1 middle school, 2 elementaries,
we're operating many more buildings, much more square footage, many more miles for our buses, much more technology. And so the sinking fund is needed in order to continue to support that. And our sinking fund in the past was used for that. The bond dollars, we went to our most identified needs in the school district, but it didn't cover every need in the school district.
But Port Huron is lower than what you're raising it to, and Port Huron has a lot of schools. They're at 4.5 and you're at 5.9, or that's what you want to go to.
Right.
But we're still, if you look where we are right now,
Yeah, well, I can't compare that. I would have to look at all the
Yeah.
statistics that go along with each one of these school districts versus, it's just like the city. We can't compare our jobs with each community because every community does things differently. And same with school districts. So this is nice, but I can't compare everything without seeing all the facts of what these schools do. You know what I'm saying?
no, absolutely. But I think the main point being is the state of Michigan does not fund us in a way that allows us to do all the things that are needed within the buildings, technology, safety and security. We now buy in East China School District, we buy every sixth grader every single year a Chromebook that they keep with them and on past graduation. So all our sixth graders that came in this week, they got a brand new Chromebook and they're gonna keep that with them through their graduation. Next year, we'll be buying those Chromebooks again. It's those reoccurring costs that a sinking fund could pay for, and we don't have to take it out of the
So a
general
kid
fund.
in sixth grade is going to get a Chromebook and that's going to take them through, the technology will be out of date 2 years down the road.
No, it won't. The Chromebooks,
These are,
yeah, Chromeboxes, that's why we went with them. Chromeboxes, they don't have a hardware portion, it updates on the software, so they can continually they get an update every year. And we
they're
replace them.
web-based.
What's that?
They're web-based.
Web-based.
Yeah. They don't have-
okay. All right.
May I ask a couple of questions as well? Would it be possible to get a previous accounting of expenditures for the sinking funds in the past, since that seems to be one of the ongoing questions of why there's ongoing expenditures, we can
Yep.
have that understanding in front of us.
Absolutely.
Do you want a copy of that, or if we made that available on our sinking fund website?
Either way, I would be comfortable
Okay.
being able to look at that. And I think, this isn't a decision we get to make ultimately. It's done by the public and the voting.
Right.
And so I think if this is a raised question about what was the sinking fund having done in the past, we
Sure.
should see and see where it's going and what wasn't covered and why it wasn't covered. They can make that decision. I think it would be helpful if we can make that data available. Do you have an understanding why, Port Huron is lower on this than Algonac. And obviously you're not Huron, but do you have an understanding of why they have such a smaller millage and sinking fund here?
Categoricals would be my guess, is they receive.
Right.
So the way the state of Michigan funds schools, when based on your economic situation, that more money is flowed through school districts, through 31A, and my guess is they receive, it's not reflected here because it's not a debt that they carry, but they're funded in a different manner due to some of their different populations.
So the other question I wanted to ask, regarding the Chromebooks, that's a cost that would theoretically drop as enrollments drop, right? Fewer students, fewer Chromebooks. But a lot of what you have listed here on the sinking fund expenditures have nothing to do with enrollments, right? Boilers, drainage systems, resurfacing the track, that doesn't change based on the number of students. Do you have a sense of where the enrollments are going to go over time? And to expenditures like this that are for two different sets of facilities, and can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So the sixth graders, the class sizes now, our largest class size is our 10th grade class. So we've normalized. It looks like a snake, the large end is here, and we've been waiting for those larger classes to graduate, and our more normal, or our new normal of class size is down in the younger grades. So my guess would be right now that with sixth graders, that's about what our population is going to be. We're not going to see lower class sizes. There's a couple smaller ones, but they're leveled out with the sixth grade.
So
Go
we've
ahead.
been trending about 100 students per year that we lose. And then as these class sizes graduate, we're closer to like 40 or 50 students on average in the lower, as the lower grades advance through the years. It is interesting as we track it that the class size that starts, for the most part, stays the same. So it's not like, oh, the fifth graders, we lost 10 kids this year. The total class, if the class starts at 225, it pretty much stays that way throughout, give or take 4 or 5 kids. And that's pretty much on trend with every grade. So the huge difference is really the graduating class and the incoming kindergartners. An example, we graduated, was it 375 or 325?
325.
325, and we budgeted this year for 175 for kindergartners district-wide.
Just the entire district. So if you look at, what was it, $9,680 per student was our foundation allowance, you multiply that by 100 students, that's how much less the East China School District has in their general fund budget for this year. And we've been doing that year after year after year after year. Now, it's interesting to watch. We had 2 enrollment studies done, I think mainly because the first one, people saw it and said, this can't be true. We cannot be getting this small. So they had another one done that we are trending right on exactly where these 2 studies showed us to be for enrollment. And we have since I've been the superintendent, we have lost in enrollment decline 760 students. Multiply that by the $9,680 per student. You can see that the balancing of these budgets has been difficult, but we've done it, and passing of that bond was wonderful for the school district. And now we need that other leg to continue to update, because the bond is one time. You do it one time, that's done. Now we need to be able to maintain the school district and all the investment this community has put into it.
So with these enrollment reports, and it sounds like you all have been doing a fair bit of studying on where this is going, do you have 5- and 10-year budget projections without the sinking fund coming in?
It's in the process right now to really, put out there where the cuts would have to happen. We plan on doing a budget update at our October meeting for the school district, so.
Yeah, based on the state budget. I'm sorry.
I just think that would be helpful for the public too in making this decision, seeing what these studies are showing for the school district over the next 5 and 10 years.
And I think I'd just like to emphasize the fact that we're maintaining multiple buildings, the Santa Clara campus, the Marine City campus, 4 elementaries, the Meisner Road location. One of the things the school district did prior to Mrs. Gleason and I being here was the consolidation of the track and the athletic field down at the Meisner location, and that's great because those fields the turf lasts about 10 years, and I think we're on year 6 or 7. So in a few years, they're going to be looking at needing to replace that turf again, and that's over $1.5 million to even be looking at that replacement. And the track needs to be replaced, but the neat thing is the district had the foresight to have 1. So we're not replacing 2, we're replacing the 1, but the 1 will need to be maintained and replaced about every 10 years.
But did the school district sell off property? Some of
There were down 3 buildings.
okay, and those have been sold off?
Yes.
So where'd that money go?
It's again, a one-time influx of money, and it went to
True.
the general fund dollars. But that's not enough to maintain a school district our size. We needed to get down in square footage in order to be efficient. We don't have enough students for the level of square footage that we had.
So hopefully if it increases, we're not gonna be asked to pay to build new buildings.
The enrollment studies on out are, like I said, I kind of just went back to look to see how accurate they were. They're almost right on where they said we would be. Yes, ma'am.
The identified sinking fund priorities in orange, when are these going to be completed, over how much time, and how much is that portion costing?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So in orange is what you're wanting for the sinking fund, right?
Yeah.
are all those going to be done in the next year or two, and how much are they costing? What are the figures on all those orange improvements? What is it going to cost the school district?
Well,
You have to bid it out.
right, it all gets bid out, but when we were developing the plan, our, facility plan, essentially, this sinking fund allows for about $6 million annually for 10 years. And so just over 4 million is for infrastructure.
That's not what I'm asking. Obviously, you've put all these on here. You must have some idea of what it's going to cost you to do these improvements. with
Sure.
Orange,
That's what you were
and that's
saying,
what I
yeah.
want to know.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't have an actual dollar amount for every dot with me, but we absolutely have a facility plan that backs this up.
And it's going to cost $6 million a year?
For 10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
$60 million to do these improvements.
I-
Is
I
what
guess
I'm asking.
I'd
So-
like Sean, I'd like to see that
Yeah.
document.
Yes.
Sure.
And you say it's a lot of tech, but you only have the sixth graders. That's the only tech you have on there. The rest of it is athletic things. Now you have buildings on there, which is great.
Fence.
But you're saying it's tech, with it's only those computers. That's the only tech on there they've got listed.
The infrastructure, I think, is what what Angie was referring to was the dollar amount that we allocated to support the 2.75 mils. The transportation department, you're not gonna replace a bus every year, but on average, you're probably gonna be replacing a bus every year, and we have a dollar amount associated with that. On average, your infrastructure and your technology, whether it's through repairs or replacement, has an average to it. So there was that we put in the busing, the technology, and the infrastructure repairs and upgrades, and that's how we were able to come up with the needed 2.75 mils. And
Right.
we can put that on, so I wanted to say real quick, on our website, we have a sinking fund 2024 button, and if you click on it, you'll find this document, you'll find the FAQ document, you'll find a tax calculator, so you can put in your home value and get an estimate on the tax that this would levy, and we can also put that breakdown.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what-
I think that's really important that you tell people, because you want us to give you $6 million a year. What is that money going for? What is it paying for? You can say, we're going to give them computers. How much does it cost to give them computers
Sure.
Yeah.
in the sixth grade?
We can do that.
People would like to see that. I would like to see it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you for your time. Thank you for your good questions.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
All right, on to 6 for public comment. Anyone is welcome to address the city commission. Please state your name, limit your comments to 5 minutes. Commission will not respond, will follow up as necessary. Remember to address your comments towards the board and myself as the chair.
Well, that's quick.
To kick it off.
5 minutes goes by fast.
Yes.
Understand, everybody gets. If you would. Perfect. Okay.
It's a pack.
That's just a little present. Since I'm a retired educator, you can put that under the heading of brownie nosing. Whatever works. Uh, 12 years ago, Paul Decker, who's a retired band director of Marine City High School and served up at St. Clair Middle School in his pre-retirement years, founded this group that's shown in the picture. And one of the guys in the band that does the pics and runs our Facebook site happened to capture that grader in the background, and it was so coincidental I couldn't pass it up. I went and had some made, and I had some made for the band. I'm going to give them for Christmas presents. We had it blown up a little bit, and I'm going to give that to them for Christmas. We've become like a little community, kind of, that band. These are people that love to play. Many of them have been with us all 12 years. Some have come, some have gone. Mr. Bryson was with us. He opted to go up and play with the East China Community Band at the end of the pandemic protocol in the education system, and did that. But prior to that, he was with us 6, 7 years, until the pandemic kicked in and slowed everybody down. Basically, this group plays for civic events, festivals, including Heritage Days, Maritime Days. We finished the Finsterwald Arts and Crafts and performed in the new bandstand, which we fit, believe it or not, and it's great that it's a little bigger than the other one. We wouldn't have fit in the other one. We played at McMorrin Place. We've done the St. Clair Jazz Festival, the Blue Denim Ball for the Friends of City Hall group, Music in the Park for Pride and Heritage Museum, and we played Wednesday night jazz at the Rec Bowl in Mount Clemens. In the winter, we perform at nursing homes and assisted living facilities in the area. We've done them from Fort Gratiot the whole way down to New Baltimore. Our next event is at River Place Pavilion down on Water Street, coming up shortly on the 28th of this month. And we'll be at John Sapienza's place that he put up where the original Anita's was. I was there the night that happened. Not in, outside. But at any rate, that's our next event, and that is the 28th from 7 to 9 in the evening. And then in October 19th, we're playing at the Masonic Lodge in Port Huron for a dinner dance black tie event that they're having up there. We've completed 2 PAC concerts. I'm sorry the superintendent and her treasure person left before I got this spiel in. We've done 2 concerts last 2 years at the PAC, which benefit the Performing Arts Center of the East China Schools. And we've chipped in about $1,000 each year, $2,000, or a little over $2,000 to Dave Simpson's discretionary fund, if you will. His funding for microphones, small equipment, stands, lights, light bulbs, and all that good stuff. It's not a lot of money, but it helps. This picture that I showed you and passed around is from the recent Crowd Rise concert, which took place on the 15th of August, and a month ago, and we were able to utilize Drake Park. It's a wonderful venue to play in. The only major problem in that park is the sun's in the musicians' eyes because they're facing into the sunset. Fortunately, our night was overcast. We got away with it. We were able to garner $179. You can see in the foreground of the picture the donation jar, which went to the Friends of City Hall for the restoration of 300 Broadway. Okay. This is a beer league for musicians. Parks and Rec departments help out athletes. They run basketball, volleyball programs, and now probably pickleball and every other thing. And they've done that for years. Community bands and the organization of community bands in the state of Michigan has always provided a place for musicians who work long and hard and invest money and time and energy in learning how to play a musical instrument after they graduate from high school or college. And they get an opportunity to make use of all that time that they invested. We rehearse Mondays from 7 to 8:30, currently in my garage. In fact, we're going to call Guinness Book of World Records, and I think we'll go for the biggest garage band in the world. It's a bit crowded, but we're having a good time. My neighbors are very patient and receptive. They come from blocks away. Brian let me know he could hear us well and enjoys the music when I talked to him earlier this week. Our 2-year-old neighbor, girl, comes over and stands, oh, is that my time?
It is.
In the end of the driveway and does her dance, and we have it on video. We'll probably put that on Facebook too. So anyway, my main pitch is we're looking for a rehearsal venue. And I know I heard the bell and I'll quit, but the attached piece of paper details what we're looking for. We'd like a time and Monday nights and so forth. It's a great group. We have a lot of fun. and I think we provide a real viable service and our missions align. We improve the quality of life for the residents of the city and chip in a little money to boot when we can. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Tammy Graver, and I'm president of the Marine City Maritime Days. First of all, I want to thank you all for your support for Maritime Days in August. It was amazing. We were so excited. The town came together, and it was just everything we could have dreamt of. It was awesome. So now, as a committee, we've decided that we want to continue to give back to the community. We want to continue to offer events when possible. So we're looking at Halloween, and the committee met. We came up with an idea to do trunk or treat on Water Street, and this would kind of mesh the community along with the businesses. We hope to close Water Street down from Union down to Broadway, all the businesses, and also individuals can bring a car, open the trunk, decorate it, and pass out candy to all the kids in the community. So it's a free event, free for people to come and set up, and also free for all the kids in town to come and have a place, a safe place to come together. And the businesses that we've spoke with are just like, oh my gosh, what a great idea, you know, because as a city, we really don't have anything for Halloween. So we're ready, we're excited, we're hoping that you're going to pass our thing. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Richland?
Good evening and thank you. I wanted to answer a couple of questions that Sean O'Brien brought up. Good questions, but to visit, you should visit. It's called Munitrix. Not sure of the exact website, but it's kind of a goofy, like there's a bunch of numbers and letters and stuff, but it has transparency information on there. Make sure you check for yourself. Don't just take my word for it or anyone else's word for it. I think you should read into it yourself. But they used to have a detailed list of proposed things that they were going to do. When I was on the board, that's something that we really pushed for, and then like toward the tail end, they kind of fell by the wayside, and now they kind of expect taxpayers to pick it up, but I'm going to get to that. There's still $2.6 million in the sinking fund that people voted down 2 years ago that they haven't touched, and that's in their audit. You can look that up too. Anyway, I'm here tonight to share my thoughts on the East China School District's huge tax increase proposal. There are many reasons to vote no on this proposal. The wasteful spending and lack of detail on what this massive amount of money will be used for is only the beginning. In 2020, voters voted for the largest tax increase in the school district's history at $112,900,000. The argument for it was that it was a comprehensive update to all the buildings, grounds, and technology, on and on. In 2022, after this tax increase took place and the district closed the physical location of Riverview East High School after promising not to, voters for the first time ever voted against a millage renewal of the sinking fund. This was not surprising to me, as voters just voted for the largest tax increase in the district's history to what they thought was supporting the education of their children. Now the district was asking for even more after getting more than they ever have. Some will point to the millage rates, which was done tonight, and though it is true that we're one of the lowest, what they fail to mention is that when you factor in our taxable value, we are actually one of the highest taxed, not just in the county, but around the state. In our county alone, when you factor in student population, it's not even close. We have the highest taxable value at nearly $2.3 billion, thanks to DTE, compared to Port Huron with $2.1 billion. And they have like quadruple the amount of students. And all the other districts combined, Algonac, Marysville, Memphis, Capac, Yale, combined don't add up to us. So the millage rates do not tell the whole story. The fact is, we are the highest taxed in St. Clair County. According to Munitrix, even with less students and staff, the district has received significantly more in funding over the years, and you can see that on Munitrix. Instead of looking at, jumping from 44 million to over 50 million in revenue in just 1 year. Instead of looking ahead and setting aside some money for repairs and upgrades, they spend the money as it burns a hole in their pocket. The district looks to we, the taxpayers, also known as what they view as their piggy bank. Like I said earlier, voters voted down the renewal of the sinking fund. At the time, the millage rate was .3992 mils, or $660,000 per year. The superintendent and backers of the proposal at the time claimed that it was sufficient to upkeep buildings even though they had just passed an over $112 million bond. I argued and still do that they have more than enough in their general fund to cover these costs. The vast majority of school districts in Michigan do not even have a sinking fund tax. Now, after a couple years of reflection, they have come up with a proposal over 6 times that amount. And I always say, never underestimate the East China School District leadership's ability to find a way to waste money. Every time I think I've seen it all, they prove me wrong. And here we go again. This new proposal is for 2.75 mils, or over $6 million per year. According to Zillow, the average home in Marine City is worth over $218,000. The taxes on that same home would be an additional $300 per year on average. The lack of details leads me to question why they would need this large of an increase, other than possibly wanting to build more and possibly continue their failed attempt to combine the high schools. The district recently decided to bring back their custodial workers in-house, which is a good decision, by the way, but for years they screwed those employees. They used to work for the district for decades, and this helped upkeep the buildings. People like Mr. Emery, Mr. Manzel, and I could go on and on. But people with plumbing, building experience, electrical, now they all hire that out, and over the last decade that's cost the district millions of dollars. That saying, what's that, penny wise and pound foolish? I'll wrap it up, I'm sorry. There should be preventative maintenance and appreciation shown to those employees that put in years of work. On November 5th, there is a lot on the ballot, but this is one of the craziest proposals I've ever seen put forward by the district with no details on how the money will get spent. With that being said, I urge every citizen to get out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Lysiak?
Phil Blackshack, Marine City. I'm going to briefly touch on the sinking fund. I don't like paying taxes as much as the next person. Is something that is common. Everyone seems to agree on. No one likes to pay taxes. However, I'm looking at it this way. The school district is making all these improvements. They're putting all this work into the buildings. I have kids in the district, and I'm glad they're thinking ahead of time, thinking ahead to have capital there to make the repairs, to do the upkeep, so they don't run into a position someday where like all this stuff is broken, we rarely have any money to work with, and then they start getting into trouble. I want to see the district succeed, and I want to see them financially succeed as well. I'll revisit in the future, but for now, I do support the sinking funds for that sole purpose. Moving on, I noticed on our agenda tonight that we're looking at doing an ordinance review advisory, a discussion on it. I think an ordinance review advisory committee would be a good thing to look at our ordinances, kind of look at things, see what's outdated, what's not. I do have a recommendation for the commission though. Ultimately in this town, there's 2 parties that live by the ordinances, the residents and the businesses. The government entity of 2, of course, but the residents live in the town, they have to abide by all the residential ordinances. The businesses have to abide by all business ordinances. If you put a committee together, I'd recommend putting 1 resident on the committee and 1 member of the CED board or business owner or somebody who understands the business field. So as you work together, you work with the commission, the representative of the commission works with the resident and the businesses. So when you look at these ordinances, you have all the sides represented and really look into what's the fairest for the residents, the people, and the businesses in this town. And once again, thank you to the city for all its hard work. It continues to be great and improves every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good idea.
Gopher?
Mike Hilfrank. It's really, really good to see some of the old Rorick sisters back there asking some questions. Nice job, guys. I wish you guys would ask a little more questions when the discussion with the $15 per month that's going to be added to everybody's water bill here soon without any kind of vote. And essentially, it's taxation without representation. $180 a year on water bills that are already way too high. I went to a meeting at the county on the Brownfield. The mayor was there, Mr. O'Brien was there, which was a pleasant surprise. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to hear anything from the mayor as far as her position on the brownfields and what she thinks about housing developments using taxpayer money to fill in the blanks of profit. Because that'd be important, right? You're at the meeting, you were sitting right next to Mr. O'Brien. I really thought you were actually going to say something. Kind of thought you were going to have some questions tonight about the bond proposal too, but you really don't have a whole lot to say, Jen. You kind of just sit up there and go with the wind, just like the city manager decision. You told us all she had to go, and then when it came down to it, you didn't do it. You really didn't have what it took as a leader to make that decision. And hopefully all the voters out there see the real lack of leadership that you have up there. I mean, every time something important happens, you always look next to Lisa, like, oh, what else should I do? So, I don't know, maybe express some of your opinions and what you think about things so the voters coming up in November actually know what they're voting for, because you really don't say anything ever. Back to the brownfield, and that dovetails on tonight's discussion actually with the sinking fund. The sinking fund is one of the millages that will be stolen by brownfield developments. And these brownfields, they were designed to take property that was contaminated, take property that was dirty, clean it up because it wasn't able to be used, right? But now the state's made the decision to open it to any housing development they want. So now we got Algonac, we got a developer there with their hand out. We got somebody in Marysville also with their hand out. And if you guys think this new apartment complex, the 180 units that you guys were proposing there next to the courthouse, isn't going to come out with their hand out asking for the same thing, I'd be thinking twice. Because they obviously are going to ask for everything they can possibly get. And if you guys keep voting to give away tax dollars for millages that Mr. O'Brien thinks is a good idea at the St. Clair County meeting, he thought the brownfield was a great idea. He said, yeah, we're happy and excited about it. Mr. O'Brien, you got to really get out of your house some more, man, because you have no pulse on the community whatsoever, none. If you go on Facebook and look at some of the responses to your comment there, people are like, what is this guy talking about? He's in Marine City. Bring this to Marine City and have their taxpayers pay for it. We don't want it here. You truly have no clue what the pulse of the community is. And that's very, very alarming. Very, very alarming. That you get up there and you say it's affordable housing when they're 300K houses. They cost $300,000. The median income in Algonac is $50,000 per year. That would mean they would need $80,000 a year to pay for these and not give up a third of their income. How is that affordable for anybody around here? It's not. It doesn't make any sense, right? As far as this sinking fund, oh, that's a hard no. And I think most of this community know that one. I mean, look, we just passed the bond. The sinking fund was supposed to be to repair the buildings that need to be repaired. They're all new now. We don't need a sinking fund anymore. We don't need it, and we can't afford it. People here can't afford it. And I'm a little bent by that. She comes up here and she asks us for more money, and she's sitting on a school over there that she couldn't just sell us a field of it. Either that or Mr. Atkins, the worst negotiator ever, which is probably part of it. When we've been letting them use our property for free, we literally own their parking lot and track, and we don't collect anything for it. But they can't just help us out with some land so we can build a community park? I mean, that's just not good business. It seems like that deal could be made out real easy. Or should we just start charging them rent? Start making them pay a lease for the land that they're using for the high school parking lot and the track over there. That's our property. Come on, guys. Do we want a nice community park or not? Or are we going to keep using this room and pretending this is a community center? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to the Guy Center. It's embarrassing to the people that know the history in this town. Let's get that property over there. Let's put some pressure on them. If they don't want to sell it to us, let's start charging rent. That's how I do it. Let's start negotiating. Everybody just wants to play nice and be friends. That's not how government, that's not how business, that's not how politics work. Start asking her questions. Let's start getting these deals done. Let's start doing something for the community, including getting the grass in the cemetery adequately weed whacked. And why are you smiling? It's funny? Because somebody just posted on Facebook just the other day how sad they were that they visited from out of town
Mr. Hill.
and they had to see their dead relatives with grass all over it, and you're sitting there smirking as if it's funny?
Mr. Hillfrank.
I am so glad you're out of here in a month. Toodaloo. Good luck on your next ventures.
Is there anybody else who'd like public comment?
You want
Oh, go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Tell them good night. If I just pass something out real quick, if that's okay. Maybe. There you go. It's two. I'm sorry, I accidentally gave you two.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm missing.
No, you can skip the letter.
We'll share.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Tyler, and I'm concerned about the local journalism across Michigan. So someone who's concerned about the state. I know we have the Times Herald. I'm just concerned that they're that they're losing money, and as they're not able to cover as much as they used to. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm going around and I'm trying to be a journalist, trying to give, I call it the St. Clair County voice because I want to give a voice to the people of St. Clair County. I've mostly been doing audio interviews so far. I do plan on having some written content. I just need to figure out what piece I'm gonna write about. So I've heard some ideas in this room, and I'm glad if anyone wants to give me any ideas. I know there was. I'm sorry, sir. I can't remember. I apologize. Anyway, if anyone has ideas for stories that I can write, and I would love for nothing more than to write a story about it, maybe bring attention to some important issues that are affecting the city of Marine City, and any other. And also, I'm going around St. Clair County. I'm attending city meetings. Yesterday, I attended the Kimball Township city. It's a township meeting. It was for the board of trustees. So I already have an interview with the mayor of Algonac, Mr. Rocky Gillis. I already have an interview with one of the St. Clair County commissioners named David Rushing. So if anyone wants to schedule an interview with me, I'd be happy to take it. Just that I would spread the word. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Richard?
Dear Madam Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Laura Merchant from 430 South Water Street. As a local business owner, I'm thrilled to support the Trunk or Treat on Water Street event presented by Marine City Festival. This event is a fantastic opportunity for us to come together as a community, and I truly believe it will bring a lot of joy and excitement to our town. Trunk or Treat isn't just about Halloween fun. It's about creating a space where families can enjoy the heart of Marine City while connecting with local businesses. Events like these help us showcase the best of what we have to offer, encourage families to explore their town, and strengthen the bonds that make our community so special. Supporting events like Trunk or Treat is important to us as business owners because it's not just about commerce. It's about community. It's about showing that we're all in this together and that Marine City is a vibrant, welcoming place where families can have a great time and feel at home. I encourage everyone to come out, have some fun, and see what makes Marine City such a great place to live, work, and play. With the support of this commission, let's make this event a huge success and continue to build the strong, connected community we all love. In addition, I have had the opportunity to speak to local businesses who are in support of this event, the time, and the location as well. So thank you, and I can't wait to see you on Water Street.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anyone else? Okay. Moving on to approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the City Commission meeting minutes of August 15th, 2024?
So moved. Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Just going to say, well done.
And can I have a motion to approve the City Commission special meeting minutes, city manager interviews of August 19th, 2024?
So moved. Support.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now on our consent agenda, we have 8A, business license for the Hive Apparel LLC. Then the new B, the city manager resignation letter. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through B as presented?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda, letters A and C.
Support.
Okay, motion and support, and a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bryson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Brien?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Mayor Vandenbosch?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Under 9, items removed from consent agenda, we have 9A, the special event permit for the truck or treat on Water Street.
Tammy, can you go up for? Okay. All right, I think this is a great idea. I just need to know a little bit about logistics of how you're gonna do this. So if we have that whole town full, how are you guys gonna do the trunk or treat with the street, with parking? How are you gonna do that? I mean, you're gonna have people from out of town here, and they're all gonna park downtown like so that's my question.
So we'll have the street closed down, so we'll have...
But not till 2 o'clock.
No, from 2 to 4 is the event.
Yeah.
And there it says that we will close
The whole day?
the street earlier.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how you're going to do it to get people to leave if they're happy and they're content and they're shopping and they're doing whatever, you know what I'm saying?
So what we did, like for Maritime Days.
Okay.
you close it earlier, and then as people leave, no one else comes in.
All right.
And then if we have a couple of cars, we have a couple of cars.
Okay.
Because people are going to be pulling in,
Yeah.
be angling in and opening their trunks.
Yeah.
So if we did
Yeah, I don't have a problem with
They can't
that.
count.
I just worry about, because it's on a Sunday, that usually you guys close it down on a Thursday or a Friday. Now we're talking a Sunday when we got a lot of people there. So that's my only concern. I mean, I love it. I just wish you well, because I know how people can get if they're, telling them to get out. But as long as you guys can control that, it's going to be a great event. I'd just rather talk about it more so that people understand how you're going to do it. And and you've already talked to all the businesses, and they're all happy with it. So what time do you think you're going to shut downtown, just so everybody's going to know?
Well, we have at noon.
Okay.
At noon, and then we'll start with the cars coming in to set up for trunk or treat.
Okay. So you're just going to be hopeful that most everybody leaves?
Yep.
We are, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if needed, and Tim's probably going to kill me for suggesting this, but if we needed to do little signs that just said, that it would be closed, that way people knew, or put flyers on it,
Yeah, you might want to notify, because, you get a lot of people from out of town, they don't know what we're doing. I mean, you're going to post it around here, and people see it on Facebook, so they'll all know, but most of the people that are going to be down there on a Sunday are visitors, so you got to find a way to nicely ask them to, yeah.
I know that, because Madison's will be over, maybe we could talk to Father John, even maybe for Holy Cross. I mean, not that people don't park there anyways.
Yeah.
But maybe especially on that day.
Yeah.
If we have a family event, we could.
Right.
maybe talk
Yeah, so that's my only concern is, how to get the people that they're
Right.
hiding in all the restaurants or whatever, and so that you got enough room to get a good, successful event.
I mean, I could see how it would be nice just to have signs made.
Yeah.
Whenever you have an event like that you can post, whether you post them on a, someplace uptown.
Yeah,
on the
Or at each
City manager
business,
and I
at each
talked about
business,
that,
something.
City manager and I had
Yeah,
talked
we're-
about that earlier as barricades before they go on, and even a day or two.
Yeah, we're going to try to put some notices up in advance.
Yeah.
Probably, actually, the Friday, for people who may be returning back, see that on Sunday,
Yeah.
October 27th, the street will be closed for a trunk or treat event, beginning at noon.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our game plan that we've coordinated together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe get one in all the businesses and I'm just hoping it goes smooth for you, that's all. I mean, I'm just looking at,
I know, first year, so it's like.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna have barricades at Broadway and Union, and then all the side
All the
streets in
side
between.
streets.
Now, you're gonna have people manned at all these barricades as people are trying to
Oh,
get
yeah.
out. You're gonna have to move a barricade, let a car out, and
Yeah.
then back in, so we're gonna have to have people at.
It's going to be a little logistics thing. That was only my concern
It
is,
is, I think this first year will be some growing pains.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we're gonna have to
Okay,
And we'll do like we did before Maritime Days. We'll have a pre-event meeting here.
Yeah.
Police Department, Fire Department, DPW, and work out all the pieces to make sure that the players are in the right place and things happen at the right time.
okay, all right. Yeah, successful, great, it's
Yeah.
a nice event, wish you well.
Excited.
If I may ask, is this, so trick or treat, like in residential neighborhoods, it's not really an official city event?
No, we designate hours on Halloween.
Right, and so is this intended to replace, or
No.
are we expecting this to run alongside?
This is an additional
This is on
event.
Sunday, October 27th.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
No.
So,
I'm just
nothing
checking to
else.
see if this is intended to replace residential trick or treat.
No.
No.
Alternate
Folks are gonna
option.
come
No.
and ask, when they see this.
Yeah.
So kids, chance to capitalize.
Yeah.
All the candy.
Well, especially with the state park closed, because, they're missing out this
That's
year,
very true.
Right.
So this is the
Huge event.
chance.
It's not
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
Is this a scheme pushed by the dental offices?
Yeah. Maybe.
Another thing is, a lot of people, Paul just said this, a lot of people, kids don't go to their house. So this is kind of a nice opportunity for people to be able to give out candy.
Right.
Yeah.
I know Paul did trunk or treat at the funeral home.
Yeah.
And it was so, one year, we
Yeah.
had 500
Yeah.
500 kids. So it's just nice, it's something.
It's just an extra for them.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you, Tammy.
Tammy, focus on full-size Butterfingers, I think. Tends to bring up. Right.
This is for kids, Bob.
Oh, Halloween's for everybody.
Right.
Yeah, even the adult.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering.
Yes. Oh, so I'll make a motion that we approve the 8B special event permit trunk or treat on Water Street.
Support.
Okay, motion for any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Brien.
Yes.
Commissioner Rourke.
Yes.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, on to 10, financial business, under 10A, expenditures. That's including payroll of $854,563.94. I have a motion to approve the expenditures, including payroll, in that amount of $854,563.94.
I'll make a motion, we approve expenditures, including payroll for $854,563.94.
Support.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yes, I just want to point out that approximately $450,000 of that amount is disbursement of tax dollars back to taxing entities. So the school district, the county, and it's usually what happens this time of year during tax collections.
Right. So to reiterate, this is not money the city is losing. It is money the city had owed anyway, collected, and is paying out, distributing
Other
to various
entities'
entities.
money.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
that we're sending to them.
exactly. So, thank you for that clarification.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
I did.
You did. Thank you.
Kind of a tie.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Brien.
Yes.
Commissioner Rourke.
Yes.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, on to 10B. Am I saying this right? Evoqua?
Yes,
The
perfect.
Evoqua invoice for $47,186.48. I have a motion to approve the invoice for Evoqua in the amount of $47,186.48, and that's for the replacement of the gearbox for the ditching unit at the wastewater treatment plant.
Make a motion, we approve the invoice from Evoqua for $47,186.48 for the gearbox replacement.
Support.
Any other discussion?
Madam Mayor, I just want to provide some clarification. This was an item that we anticipated having a replacement on that Mr. Schmidt brought to the commission, I believe, back in May of this past year. When we get to the next item was an unplanned issue. We knew that this one was going to be replaced. So you're actually approving, hopefully, something that was brought before you in May, and I'll explain the second piece when we get to that one.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner O'Brien.
Yes.
Commissioner Rourke.
Yes.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, on 10C, Evoqua invoice $447.10. The motion to approve the invoice for Evoqua for the repair of the gearbox for the clarifier at the wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $48,447.10.
Make a motion, we approve the invoice from Evoqua for the clarifier gearbox for $48,447.10.
Support.
Any other discussion? City Manager?
Yes, so I just want to point out on this item, this was the unanticipated failure of the second unit, which I believe I had indicated to the commission by correspondence. The timeliness was not perfect. We already had the one unit down being rebuilt, and this unit then failed. So that's why you're seeing two almost identical costs. And when you get to item D, that is also going to be a component of repair parts. So again, knowing that we had to replace one and then a complete failure left us with 0 options. So the second one is truly the bigger emergency than the first.
Do we or can we, with the replacement of these units, have something in backup that would allow us to, have some level of redundancy?
Well, they are designed to actually have redundancy, the 2 units. So if one unit fails, the secondary unit is in place.
Okay.
Unfortunately, before the first unit was rebuilt, the second or redundant unit failed.
I got you.
Also, both older units. So we are looking, again, while you're seeing some of these costs come in, the way that we're doing this now is to kind of up that redundancy at the same time, and also replacing other components in a preemptive action, so we don't have the same situation occurring in the future.
Okay. Because one was ditching, one was clarifier.
They both,
So
they both run the similar systems as you
Okay.
go through the whole process, so you can't do one without the next. So when you have a failure on one side, and then you have a component, you're basically out of business on both. They're running 2 systems, 2 redundancy systems, different pieces, whether they're called oxidation, clarifiers, but essentially, if it fails on the other side at the same time, this is the situation we're in.
Got it.
I will also add that we were very fortunate that the work on the one portion had already begun, so we were able to have just a brief lapse, rather than having massive discharges of untreated waste into the river, which would have been catastrophic for us.
Oh, yeah. So, but again, you did say that there is some plan to potentially look into like a tertiarily redundant system, right?
Yeah, and also looking at process. In this case, where we did have a failure of both systems, we had a process where we could have the excess effluent basically go into plant facilities and be able to set in retention, I'll just call it for lack of better terms, retention basins.
Okay.
To be able to work on getting the systems back online without a discharge of materials without treatment. So, yeah, there are a lot of mechanical pieces and then some non-mechanical pieces in play as well.
Sure. I just figured we have 2 now that are exactly as aged, right? So their failure time should again be at the same time.
We hope
So, having some form of, at least,
There will also.
that's cheap insurance. 50 grand is cheap insurance.
There will also be some
Perfect.
items addressed in the upcoming capital improvement plan that will require a study and some additional engineering pieces here. But it's been a learning process for all of us. I think, as you know, that Mr. Schmidt kind of walked into this and started to deal with it. And then poor Mr. Atkinson, who still has the job and hasn't left yet, has really had the lion's share in about 90 days. But yes, redundancy, safety, and identifying future improvements, all part of our learning process on this.
For sure. Very good. Thank you.
Do we have a sense of how long new gearboxes here should last in an ideal situation?
It's my understanding they should last at least a 20-year period of time.
2025.
And in this case, we're probably pushing 30 years or more. And keys to this, again, will be a good, robust capital improvement plan and enhancements to preventative maintenance and long-term maintenance and replacement.
For the public's benefit, seeing 2 back-to-back nearly 50,000 expenditures, we're looking at paying for this for 20 years or so.
They normally last about 25 years. Yeah.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rourke.
Yes.
Commissioner Russ.
Yes.
Mayor Vandenbosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, on to 10D, C3 Equipment LLC invoice. I have a motion to approve the invoice for C3 Equipment LLC for the rebuild of the west clarifier at the wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $21,540.
Make a motion, we approve the C3 equipment invoice for $21,540.
Support.
Any discussion?
So this
This
one,
is-
you were going to explain this one too.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on it when I was talking about B, but this is basically fabrication for retrofitting of these units at the plant to go into place. Things that had to be done because of the age of the plant. There's a lot of things you just can't go and order off the shelf. So you're doing retrofitting. In this case, that attachment for the gearbox, there had to be some additional work put in for these components to fit and operate properly.
Got it. So put simply, the two, B and C were for the units themselves, and D was effectively for installation retrofitting.
Almost like a hardware, software.
Sure.
Type of thing, yeah.
Hey, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Brien,
Yes.
Commissioner Rourke.
Yes.
Motion carried.
11A for unfinished business, we have the Guy Center sale funds discussion. And City Manager?
Mayor and Commissioners, I placed this back on the agenda. This is an open item that we've had, at least this will be, I believe, the third discussion on. The reason it's back on is in discussion with Treasurer and Finance Director Posey. It's still an outstanding item that we haven't had a final solution to. I have included, and the clerk also, I should say, the clerk included in your packet electronically, but I also have hard copies if anybody needs to look at the past opinions that were put together by Mr. Davis, and also working with Mr. McBride on possible solutions. And I believe it was down to 3 recommended courses of action to consider. And I'm not necessarily looking for the commission to make that decision this evening, but to have some discussion, to put the seed back out here, because we really do need to come to some decisions on this, especially when you look at our general fund portion. I think that's the most important question is, are we going to do something to pay back the general fund for monies that had already been paid out previously for the Guy Center? Particularly where the importance is from a finance side, and talking with Ms. Posey, is we're looking at some significant adjustments to the budget already this year. Some of those are going to be in the water and sewer fund. Some of those are going to be in the general fund. We have this large water project, so we again have had to make some advance payments. I'll talk a little more in my report tonight on where we are on the bond for the water project. But we've had to essentially pay some items out of general fund that were unanticipated, that are large ticket items. We had a lawsuit settlement that wasn't anticipated, and a couple of other big items. So putting a little more thought into how we want to proceed on option 1, option 2, or option 3, I think are very important. And I know that when it comes to future questions of community centers, we may not be there yet because the Park and Recreation Master Plan hasn't been adopted, and some of that dialogue was in the preparation of that. But certainly the piece for the general fund restoration is important, because that's money we've already paid out and really need to decide if we're going to do something. And it would help us on moving forward on an amount for a future budget amendment that we wouldn't necessarily have to go into fund balance if we were able to do some of this. So again, as a refresher, the documentation is there for you to review and look at. We can put this back on an upcoming agenda. I would recommend, it looks that we're going to be pretty heavy on the September 19th agenda, but certainly October 3rd might be a good placeholder for us to come back and really have some hearty discussion on which option would be a preferred option, or an additional option that may not even be identified. Could be on the
Scott,
table.
do you have a rough idea of when that Parks and Rec plan is roughly scheduled for adoption?
So we have a public hearing that will be held prior to the regular meeting on September 19th. And dependent upon the results of that public hearing, the way it generally would go is there would be a recommendation to move for adoption at the next regular city commission meeting, which again could be October 3rd or I believe the 17th, any one of those two. So we're within 30 to 45 days of that adoption taking place. And keep in mind, as most of you know, we can always adopt and then amend the recreation plan, but I think it will point us at least in short-term, long-term project goals.
I mean, that, to me, that's kind of the elephant in the room, if you will, is what is the community center going to be? You know, you need to have the destination in your mind before you figure out how to get there.
Right.
So, I mean, is it a room? Is it a building? Is it a park? Is it a splash pad? I mean, just what is it? And that's kind of what I've been, and I think a lot of the community has actually been struggling with is, what is this thing? What will give the most bang for the buck, per se, and get the most use for the community as a whole?
Right. And if the commission is only halfway there in our next discussion, I think the two pieces really that we wrestle with is, do we do something to pay back the general fund for monies that were already put out? And if we don't have a plan, a concept, or are really at the point of making progress on a future community center or splash pad, as you said, then we can also option still leaving that money in a restricted account, the remaining portion. So that's really kind of where we're at. And when I said, you know, option 1, 2, or 3, and possibly 4 may be a hybrid of both of those pieces, so.
I mean, if discussion is still ongoing, then, I mean, you know, to reiterate for the public's benefit, option 1 was to, so when the Guy Center was created, it was actually just funds from the sale of 2 houses that the guys donated to the city. The city utilized those funds and the addition of $3,975 to purchase what was the old Edison building. Downtown, which is 303 Water. Option 1 suggests return that, adjusted for, you know, the times, inflation basically, from 74, I think it was?
73. October of 73.
So yeah.
Yeah.
October 73, and actually now that inflation number adjustment is old, but I agree that it should probably be at the time of sale, right? So that's, anyway, so that's option 1. Option 2 is to do 1 and then consider any property improvements made during the time that the city offices were in there. And then option 3 is allocate the entirety to a new community center without making the general fund whole. So personally speaking, and speaking with others in the community, I'm the biggest fan of 1. But again, you know, if we're not voting on this now, please give us your feedback. I think that that's, you know, it allows for some money to go back that the city had contributed initially. It allows, you know, Treasurer Posey to be able to use a bit of that money for, you know, items in the general fund. And, you know, it still keeps restricted the other money that was explicitly donated by the guys for a new community center. But fully agreed with Commissioner Bryson, we need to figure out what that is. In my commissioner privilege, I'll give an update on the 300 Broadway Committee. You know, that committee certainly hopes that it's 300 Broadway is our new community center. And that money could go a long way in helping that. But in any case, just for the public's benefit, again, those are the 3 options. And, yeah, be thinking about that and let us know what you'd like us to do.
Excuse me, Mayor. Commissioner Ross, I'll also make sure that this portion of the packet, some of the items are a legal opinion piece, but I'll make sure that the financial piece that was created with Mr. Davis and Mr. McBride will be available publicly. So we'll find a place to make sure it's in the minutes. So we'll enter that into the record tonight, and that would be the last page. And then we'll also see if we can find a placeholder on our new website to be able to put that. Keeping in mind, and we'll put a little asterisk with a caveat that these numbers may have to be adjusted again for inflationary purposes, but it gives a good basis of what the 3 options are and how much money we're talking. You know, we're talking a couple $100,000, not millions of dollars, but I think it's important for people to be able to see this. Agreed, and thanks. Just, I could give it really quick. I think that it was... And I believe it's actually in the public packet. Okay, good. We have it up here, but we'll make sure that it's in a couple of other places as well.
Yeah, exhibit 2.
But yeah, the adjustment the 3975 turned it into 20,480 was what was adjusted. So that's under option 1. And I think the total sale price was 237. So, again, thank you for putting that all together and looking at it and bringing it back up.
Okay, on to 12A. For new business. We have ordinance review advisory committee discussion.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, thank you. So I've had some discussion with the mayor and with Commissioner Hendrick in regards to ordinances, something that city attorney and I deal with on a regular basis. And so we had some sidebar conversation, Mr. Davis and I, and we felt that the Charter Review Committee, the way that was established, was a great process to work through. It was a smooth process, and I have this on the agenda tonight just to, again, plant the seed with the commissioners for future consideration, that we try to take that same approach of establishing an ordinance review advisory committee. It'll be some members of the commission. I think that the suggestion tonight to consider a resident and a business representative is a great consideration, and would also likely include the city clerk and the city manager as well. Knowing that we have a new city manager coming soon, I would believe that this discussion should be put back on the agenda for an action or a moving piece with a framework that Mr. Davis and myself and potentially the new manager can put together for October. It's something that doesn't need to be done today, but the process that we did for the Charter Review Committee was a great way to follow, maybe with a little expansion of those 2 extra pieces recommended, if that's the vibe of the commission.
I know this is something I've been fairly passionate about, certainly the last couple of years. I think it's great. I think we need to do it. It's beyond time. I mean, the ordinances are what the city functions on, basically. So if they're not right, then you've lost before you even started.
Well, your timing is appropriate because, part of our charter amendments that we're seeking approval on call for new policies and new ordinances.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be working on some new ordinances regardless. But I'd like to remind the commission as a whole, and you weren't all there, but the way the charter committee functioned and the approach taken by the charter committee would be a very good framework for how this appointed committee could work. We started out with a major canvas, a narrowing of things that, ordinances we might have on the books that are functionally illegal or, blowing a little bit against the case law, and worked our way to the ones that we just darn wanted to change. And it seemed to be a good process of narrowing. It was a very functional way to do things.
We'll definitely need, for the ordinances to know which ones we're hitting the most out in the community. So that we can hit those.
Well, which
first,
ones
make
we're
sure
dealing with most. And the idea of having
and try to fix them or update them or change them.
Yeah, having an individual and a business owner I feel that was a great idea. It's so great that I wrote it down, just so you know.
Times 2.
In ink. So, it was a great idea.
And I think this winter would be a good time to start doing it.
And it might be good to have the city manager transition involved in that. So, very, very good thought.
But fully agree, Commissioner Hendrick, because, the charter is a finite and relatively, compared to all of our ordinances, short.
Oh, yeah.
If we were, having a tally of basically what's hit, and most recently, what have we received the most gripes about, or what have we, by way of code enforcement or what have you, come up against the most or has been argued the most. So very pertinent, because as if the charter wasn't long enough and dry enough, being part of the Charter Review Committee, the ordinances are far longer and probably equally as dry, at least.
Well, there's some good ones in there, and there's some that should be totally removed because they're so ancient that they shouldn't be there. Yes.
And obviously, the process you have to do to amend or get rid of or add an ordinance is far less complex.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Than the charter
At least we can fix them. But I get too many complaints
You could do
from
a couple
people.
per meeting.
We have too many people here that get too frustrated that we can't always help them when we should be able to, dealing with issues in the community. So we really have to address more of that. Now's the time to really get it going.
Good thought. Thanks, Phil.
Yep, we want them to be non-contradictory and simplify them and coordinate them if possible, so. All right.
Phil,
yep.
a pay raise.
Thank you.
And,
Giving an application to the committee.
Right.
Give him 5.5 minutes next time.
Great, on to 13A for city attorney's report.
Yeah, administrative, report. So I don't normally have a report, but I do. On Tuesday, it was an interesting, I think a very important ruling by the Court of Appeals. Phil, don't leave, because you want to hear this. No, I'm paid by the word. So you have sat up here as a board and you've listened from the audience on numerous occasions that, you better do something on recreational marijuana facilities or a citizen's initiative is going to cram an ordinance down you, right? We've been, there was a recent attempt to do that in New Haven, and it was struck down by the circuit court with some very well-written briefs. And now the Court of Appeals has taken time to look at the issue involving the city of Farmington, city of South Lyons, city of Sylvan Lake, and the city of Wixom, all charter cities like yourself. And I'm going to hand you out the opinion because I know, Brian, you like to read things like this over the weekend. And it's not dry. This is actually good reading. And I want to tell you just the highlights of what's going on here. Citizens in those 4 communities, recognizing some of the controversy with rec uses, did a citizens initiative to add into the charters of those communities a recreational ordinance. And number 2, try to put all the meat on the ordinance the way they wanted it. So the Court of Appeals came out and said, no, number 1, you can't do what you thought you were doing with the charter. You just don't have that power. But most importantly, what I've told you before is that the citizens initiative rights under the MRTMA Recreational Act are to submit for the ballot, I don't want any, or I want 4. You don't get to put an ordinance into the ballot process. You don't get to force a community into an ordinance like people have been thinking and saying. This lays that to rest. And I urge you to read this opinion because I know you've listened to this, watch out, you're going to get an initiative and you're going to be forced to pass an ordinance you're not going to like. This court is saying, even if you were the subject of a valid petition, and it said, we're demanding you have 3 facilities, it still comes to you to regulate those 3 facilities. Where are they going to be? How are they going to be? What's going to be the noise provision? What's going to be the odor provision? What's going to be parking? What's going to be lighting? All of those factors never leave your purview. And I just want, since we are going to be tackling that issue, I want to remind you, don't feel the pressure, which I've told you before, don't feel the pressure. But now the Court of Appeals is telling you, don't feel the pressure because that's not the way it is set up. And the very argument in this case was the argument presented to Judge Servito in the New Haven case. And Servito ruled that that provision did not allow you to cram an ordinance into New Haven. It only allowed you to raise the number that you wanted. So I'll give everyone a copy of this, but I think it's worth your reading because it's a topic we're going to be involved with. So, Phil, could you hand these out for me, please? Sure. And go ahead and keep one, Phil. Not to the audience, to the commissioners. Yeah.
He was saving his copy.
Yeah, and when it is first.
Yeah, he was going to put it on his chair, Bob.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Does anybody want a copy of it?
Thank you, Phil.
Charge Bob for
Here you go. Hand one to the young man behind you.
You should.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Phil.
Now you can leave, Phil.
You got one?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll read it. Thank you.
all right.
Have a great night.
See you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Anyways, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. City manager's report.
3 quick ones for you. First of all,
It's never quick.
oh, I'm going to work on it right now. So I want to give an update. The city is still participating in the Michigan Municipal League-sponsored Small Business and Entrepreneurial Workshop Group. I think I announced it several months ago. We had an initial meeting, good attendance. We'll be coming back. The intent was to have quarterly meetings, so we'll have a meeting in October. And then we expect to have a larger presentation to the commission and to the public in January. So it's all coming together. We're appreciative to be one of the chosen communities for this group, and I think those that were able to attend the first meeting, I think Cheryl was here, it was a great meeting, and it's exactly what a town like Marine City needs to help bolster our small and entrepreneurial businesses. We're looking forward to continuing that. In regards to the Safe Drinking Water Project, we've completed all of the paperwork, and the bond sale is expected to be completed within the next week or two, which means we'll be getting the proceeds and be able to reimburse ourselves back on approximately $700,000 of costs that we've already paid. That's part of the bond project. I want to remind everyone, and I know that the commission is aware of this, and I've said it several times to the public, we as a city had no choice but to have to make significant improvements, in this case, in the water plant for safe drinking water. We were under an administrative consent order. And at the time that the order was entered in early of 2023, we had applied for, but had not received any notification of the grant and loan program, which means we had to make these improvements, which were estimated to be about $29 million, no matter what. And at that point, we were looking at $60 per month per user on the water system, residential and business. That was a heavy lift, almost an impossible lift, but we had no choice. Thankfully, we scored high enough in a competitive process to get both a grant and a loan, which dropped that. Had we received just one but not the other, we would have been looking at $30 per month per household. But by receiving the grant and the loan, we estimated approximately $14.87, I believe was the amount of what that cost would be. I can tell you, and I've mentioned it, I believe, at least one time at this body, and we've had all of the documentation and continue to have it on our website. We are now looking at that dollar amount to likely be in the range of $10, or hopefully less, per month. That is a huge and significant reduction from where we thought we were going to be. So this is not a tax on people. I guess we could call it maybe an unfunded mandate because it was an administrative consent order, but there's a difference between a mandate and securing safe drinking water. So it's an administrative consent order, and I appreciate all of the work that this commission did, all of the support from the residents who attended the meetings to understand this city has done everything we can and are one of very few cities to receive this type of funding to lower that burden. It's not something we want to do, but it is also something that we will look at every year. And as we have one bond that still remains on the books. When that bond falls off, if we can readjust that rate, we'll continue to readjust that rate. Working with Mr. Davis on changing some ordinance language that levels the playing field for all users of the system, meaning those that are multifamily, 24 or 48 unit apartments are going to pay 24 or 48 individual charges just like our residents. That hasn't always been that way. So we're making these changes. So, when you hear some comments, I want to correct and make sure that everybody understands that the city, through this commission and with our residents' understanding, have worked very hard to get where we're at. And so many communities didn't have that chance.
Just, a representation that this is some backdoor taxation is so off in this regard. I guess you can say some of the things we say at environmental meetings. The water's free. Drinkable water costs money. And the state of Michigan has a comprehensive scheme under the Safe Water Drinking Act to make sure that if you're going to supply water, if you're going to be a water supplier, you're going to do it right, and you're going to provide good water. You provide very good water. Your water quality testing is always very high. And when the state believes that there's part of your system that is beginning to fail and is out of compliance, they don't hand you dollars to fix it. They tell you to fix it.
Yeah.
And you sign a consent order pledging to fix it. We found a way to take that pledge and reduce it significantly for your citizens. Your citizens are going to get the high-quality water and pay far less than they would have. It's not a taxation.
And smooth streets.
Yeah.
And you're going to improve your roads at the same time. I'm
Major
sorry.
benefit,
Infrastructure, yeah.
This isn't my time, but I wanted to add, because Scott, I didn't hear it in your report there in this comment. The early estimates after we were bringing this down with these bonds and what we've secured, which is fantastic, was that it would be $15.
Yes.
And we are below that considerably.
Yes.
Correct.
And that is continuing to come down with the successes of the project, the success of the engineering firm, and the successes of what you all have done for this. So I would want to remark on that this figure is incredibly dated. For those of you that have been following along with our twice monthly meetings here, that's been since corrected on the record and explained why it was high and why it's gotten lower. It's easy to miss when someone leaves early, but we've addressed this multiple times now.
Thank you. And I have said, as you all have been here to witness, for a year and a half, this was the estimate, and we will do everything we can to lower that amount. And we've done that and continue to do that.
And it's been a tireless project working through this, because you picked good people to service you. You got good pricing in the industry. You've got a state of Michigan regulatory agency who believes in your sincerity and believes what we tell them. It's been a tireless effort to bring this down. And I get so, I'm not an emotional guy, I've been told, but I get so upset when I hear these allegations of this is a tax without, it's so fundamentally incorrect. It's fundamentally incorrect. Sorry.
You're good, thank you. And I have one last, again, where we're taking corrective steps. We have talked and talked and talked about cemetery time after time. It is never a perfect world in any community where you have a cemetery, especially the size, again, of this cemetery. And I think I said before, to point out, we have more people in that cemetery interred than we have residents, over 4,000. It's a huge cemetery. And yes, there was a comment on Facebook, I believe it was a non-resident, somebody who said they visited here and they were appalled that there was grass on the headstones. That comment came within a day of our entire DPW crew being out there. Everyone we had, and they tend to be out there every week. This has been a odd growing season with all of the rain. These guys literally were out there in the rain, stopped, returned back in the rain. So any grass that you cut is going to stick to anything. But they went back out and cleaned up and did the best they could under the circumstances. Grass, as we know, anybody who has grass at their home, sticks to everything when it's wet.
Yeah.
But to think that our DPW guys don't have enough care and concern, they have their family members buried in that cemetery. So they are very concerned, and they are out there weekly. We're roughly mowing on a 4-day rotation out there at the cemetery. And we all know how wet it's been and how unreasonably wet. When we're getting 2-3 inch plus rains, that takes that 4-day cycle and moves it by a day or two. But I went out there with the DPW director after we had heard about that complaint on Facebook. And again, the cemetery was mowed and taken care of. Sure, there's always going to be grass. Grass blows when it's dry too. But to say that it's been ignored is, again, a repulsive comment and is just beyond ridiculous. So I will apologize if what was appearing on my face seemed to be a smirk. It may have been dismay having to hear this again. So there it is.
And I just went through there too, because I go through there, because our parents are buried there, and, there was a little bit for the weed whacking, but like you said, I mean, we're all cutting our grass a couple times a week. I have issues in the backyard where I can't get to it because of the flooding, so it's been one of those years.
Absolutely.
But everything looked good to me, I mean, except for a little trimming, but that was already done, so.
And again, if
It's a
mowing,
huge,
if mowing takes place, they're coming back and doing the trimming afterwards. So if you happen to stop out there after they've just finished mowing.
Yeah.
They may not have started the weed whacking and trimming. It may be later that afternoon or the next day, but it all gets done on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's all I have. That was a lot. Thank you.
I have one quick question for you. Do you have any update on the Pazer study?
So I know that the engineering firm that's working through the SEMCOG grant initiated and started the work out here. We are anticipating that we should have the raw data by the early part of October. And we're in regular conversation with our engineering firm, AEW, who's going to take that data, extract that. I would think that we should be able to start work on a prioritization of conditions to come before this commission, likely in November. That's at least our time frame, because we want to be in a position that we are in line with some local projects and requests for funding by the first of the year. That's the cycle. And being able to share with our residents, here is the raw data. Here's the worst to the best, and understanding that we're only going to be able to accomplish so many projects per year, but we want to start that planning process as soon as we get that data converted into a workable priority schedule. And it will require a workshop with the commission here, but everything, as I understand, is moving along. We're just waiting for all of the data from the surveying to be compiled and then sent to us to be able to extract and then put together what I'll call the worst first capital plan. It's going to be a little bit more timely than it normally would be, because we're also going to extract the streets that are going to be replaced and repaired as part of the water project. That's a good thing for us, because a lot of the streets that are in the worst condition have water mains right under them, so we know that's going to be a new street. That will skew the data a little bit too, because we're going to have a lot of, I'm sure, poorly rated streets that a good number of those are going to be covered in that water project. So we'll have to do a little finessing. What you'll get is the data then of those that are not included in the scope of the water project, and then we can prioritize of how we move forward and how we seek additional funding to help us.
Thank you.
Sorry, just for clarity, so at first I thought you said that all of the streets will be in the Pazer study, not paired out from the water project.
They will all be done, because the engineers that are doing the work had no way to really separate those.
Got it.
So everything will be surveyed, and then our engineers, AEW, will extract out the water project streets and then have the rest, and then prioritize off of those. We'll have to go back through after the water project and do another Pazer update, because then we'll have those that were the worst that likely will now be the best that were repaired under the water project. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So we
everybody
will receive a non-water project list.
Yeah,
That's the remainder. The ones we're on.
You'll get the remainder. You'll probably have two lists. One will just show you the conditions as they were.
I
and
got
then
it, yeah.
The revised
That's
piece that'll
handy to
say,
have, yeah.
here are the ones not impacted by the water project that will need to be repaired, and here's the priority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And 13C, reports from department heads.
I will be very quick, I promise. First, regarding the cemetery, the August burials, 3 full burials and 1 urn burial. Second topic I have, and I'll give a couple more reminders of this, public accuracy testing for the November general election will be October 7th at 4:30 p.m. in the meeting room here. They'll come out and test the programming for accuracy and make sure we're ready to go for probably the biggest election of our lifetimes. Third, this is going to take me a minute to get it up over here and get this out. But I wanted to show everybody, not my puppy.
But he's a shark. That's the coolest thing.
Fair enough.
Well, I just wanted to kind of show off the new website a little bit, and I wanted to point out one big feature of this, as we moved to the new website. I'm showing you this through Google. You can get there. It does direct you to it. It's the same domain. So if you just Google City of Marine City, we click on this, and it'll take you to our page. Looks a little bit different, and I want to say this, bear with us. We did extract all of the information from the old website with Civic Plus and put it on this new one. There are some new features added to it as well. You are going to notice some broken links, some things that don't work, which kind of shows you how outdated that old website was and how clunky, for my term, that it was as well. So bear with us as we fix those things. We're going through department by department to get all updated information up there. The biggest portion of it here, when you first get on the site, you're gonna see this little red bell in the lower left-hand corner. And you saw that box pop up when you first visited the site. This allows you to sign them. Kind of bummed Phil left. I know he'd be interested in this. You can sign up for notifications. We have the ability through here to do like an urgent alert type thing. So that old banner that we had on the website, or the banner we had on the old website with the urgent alert on it, when we do that on this website, you will get it either via email or via text. So that's something that City Manager Adkins and I have been kind of throwing around for the last few months, how we can get information out to residents in a timely manner when you have water main breaks, when you have maybe a big power outage where we have a cooling center or a warming center in the summer or the winter. So please sign up for that. If you're watching, please sign up. Please tell everybody to sign up for it. This is a great feature of this website that I think we want to utilize even more than we have in the past to make sure we're as transparent as we can be. Another feature of this that I kind of wanted to point out as well, if you scroll down, and this is a great mobile site too, if you visit on your cell phone, iPad, anything like that. Everything's here in these bubbles. Any important information, it should all look the same. But this is one that I kind of wanted to point out here. We now have a staff directory that has everybody's email on it instead of hitting a contact us form and not knowing what somebody's email is. So it's broken down by department. I'm just going to choose mine here. And when you scroll down, you're going to see the city clerk's department right at the top. You have myself, deputy clerk, all contact information. These are our direct line numbers. These are our direct emails. And you can see there's all notices, all the resources that you had on there, the permits, the forms. Probably the most updated and only updated portion of this website are the forms. The fillable forms are all new. They're all fillable PDFs.
Yay.
They're updated with the most recent information on those forms, building permits, everything. So that is probably the most up-to-date and most recent thing, but I'm excited. We finally launched it last Friday. I've kind of been touring around it, doing things as I go, getting input from other staff members and department heads on what corrections we can make to their sites as well. So I'm excited for this. If you see anything as commissioners, if anybody sees anything in the public that needs to be changed or updated or you want added, please let me know. Email me, call me, text me. You can text my 8830 number. We have that new phone system and you can text right from that and I can text you right back.
Okay.
So if you're not a phone person and you're a texter, please use that option because I'm a techie and I love that. And that is all I have.
All right, Jay?
One quick question.
Yes.
With the notifications, and I don't even know if it's even possible, but does that tie in with the county winds system?
No, those are separate. So if you saw on the homepage, there is the WINS website there that you can still sign up for on this warning notifications. And that'll take you to the WINS site to sign up for that, which I don't think was promoted very well on our last website. It was kind of buried in there, but now it's on the front page. You can sign up for it. So yes, urge residents to sign up for that as well.
Yep.
And as encouragement for our residents, we will not sell their personal information.
Correct.
It is secure, and you can rest assured that, putting your email or phone in there is not going to result in a bunch of spam calls.
I'm not even sure I can see that information. I think it just goes out, it's all on the back end, even higher administrative rights than I have. But another cool feature about this too is we have some metrics that we can kind of gauge and see what people are visiting, broken down by page, by form, by department. So that'll be something neat to kind of see after we're rolling for a little bit as well.
One quick thing, I see we have visitors, resident resources, and maybe I missed it. Do we have anything for business resource, a separate tab yet?
We don't. I mean, that could be something we add.
Okay.
I mean, we're looking for input. Again, I think our main focus of this is building this new website is to make more information readily available and quickly available.
It's something that we will add because being engaged in the RRC program, that is one of the requirements.
Okay.
That we have a portion dedicated just to businesses and support. And we'll also want to work with the chamber and things because those cross links are very important. So it'll be something forthcoming as we go through that RRC checklist.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, and on to 14, Commissioner Privilege and Liaison Reports. And we'll start with Commissioner Clausen.
Well, the Planning Commission hasn't had a meeting because lack of of stuff coming in for what we have is already started, but there's nothing new coming in right now, so we don't have anything, so they canceled the meetings for the last 2 meetings. But otherwise, everything else is copacetic. I'd like to, the Van den Bosch family, they had their father passed away, and I just want to give them a heads up.
Commissioner Branson?
Just to, wish yourself and Dave condolences for your recent loss. That's it.
Commissioner O'Brien?
I'll echo the condolences, and of course, you've given me a microphone. So reminders for a couple of things upcoming in voting. September 26th is when you can start getting absentee ballots. They should be starting to become available. October 21st, we get a deadline to register by mail or online for voting this November election. October 26th, around then, we should be seeing early voting begins, and of course, November 5th is election day. This is a very important election for a lot of reasons, local, state, national, so please dig into that. Be sure you're double checking where you're getting information. Unfortunately, when our public comment turns into a campaign pulpit, it doesn't always reflect the most accurate information, as we discussed with the Safe Water Drinking Fund. I, for one, do not want to see Marine City become Flint. I like safe drinking water and want to keep that flowing for all residents at cost. I did go and visit one of the county commission meetings, and they happened to be speaking about the Algonac Brownfield development projects. And I did make some comments, and I'll clarify what I actually said up there, and there's video footage so folks can go see. I never called the Algonac project affordable housing. What I said is, if you want affordable housing, you have to spend a lot of tax dollars to get it. And this is an unfortunate factor of our process here in the United States and in the state of Michigan. You can ask a developer to develop housing at cost and try and keep it cheap. They have people they have to pay, right? You have laborers. They still have to buy the resources. So if you're going to get your affordable housing done, it's through government subsidy. And what I was noticing is a county-wide pushback on any expenditures of dollars on any projects we have going. It doesn't matter if it's safe drinking water. Maybe some people really want lead in their water. I don't. Maybe it's an affordable housing project. They don't want anything built. They don't want new businesses built. They don't want money spent anywhere. And I understand that there is a fear of going over budget, of spending tax dollars, of increasing millages. We've had the sinkhole conversation, or the sink fund conversation today. It feels like a sinkhole sometimes when we start paying. But we have to understand that if you want something done in your community, it is going to cost money. Do your research and make sure you know where that money's going and that it's being spent responsibly. There's definitely a lot of questions where it goes, but this is a fact. Marine City needs more affordable housing. We're going to have to address this in hopefully the near future, but that's going to be talking about opening our budget and spending money on this or finding a way of coming up with those funds. Sometimes we get lucky with a skillful city manager and staff bringing us in very strong bonds that bring those costs down, but not always. It's going to be on us as a community to pay for something like this if we want it. We have to get comfortable with having that conversation and understanding these things that we need for those of us that are most vulnerable requires chipping in. I think that needs to be said with some of the questions raised tonight. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ross?
Okay, well put. I too offer my sincerest condolences to the Van den Bosch family. That is a tough row to hoe, and my heart goes out to you guys. In boards, the 300 Broadway Committee met, and we discussed next steps for the city becoming a certified local government, or CLG. And that would both greatly increase the city's chances of 300 Broadway's chances of, or really that historic district's chances of obtaining grants through SHPO or other historic organizations, because there's, I think, 42 or I can't remember if it's we'd be the 43rd or we'd be the 42nd, but very few certified local governments in the state, And it's quite an honor to be considered as such, and it really is a help in getting historic grants. So those steps were progressed. The committee's hoping to have kind of the compilation of those steps as a draft within the next several days. One of them we accomplished by voting to, strike a piece of the historic district creation ordinance in order to make that copacetic with what SHPO wanted to see. So we also discussed the business plan creation and a tiered approach to rehabbing the building. And what the committee hopes to do is, a few of the members are going off and putting together that business plan. We will then review it at a future meeting, and then we have the hopes of submitting that to the Historical Commission and/or the city for the engineering firm to review, in that they might be able to dictate, well, that's a great idea, but if you did it this way, it would be better or cheaper or what have you. So anyway, this is amateurs creating it. We'd like the professionals to review it, obviously pending the city's approval. The final thing is that during the exhibit event, which I hope you guys visited in the former teen zone area of Old City Hall, or 300 Broadway, we compiled a survey, and those results are presently being compiled and should aid in the creation of this business plan. So just again, I've said it before, but we have an opportunity conceivably this coming spring, as it had been mentioned in a previous meeting, when the MDOT comes through and does a mill and cap on M29, we have an opportunity conceivably to do a road diet. And I'd again encourage everybody to reach out regarding their thoughts on that. I have been querying businesses and residents along that stretch of road, and so far I have received overwhelming support for it, especially when it's right in their front yard or right in front of their houses or businesses. So, things to consider. You'd have the whole left turn onto West Boulevard. That'd get fixed because there'd be a center turn lane. So there's no more getting behind somebody. They're like, oh, they're turning left, son of a gun, and waiting 5 minutes. And anyway, it actually, believe it or not, would make traffic quite a bit better. It doesn't change the size of the street at all, just where the lines are painted. So emergency vehicles, any of those, no issue whatsoever, because the street size is identical. So again, and the biggest thing that I figure is that this would, keep in mind when St. Clair had their big resurgence that's been mentioned by a couple citizens. It was right after that road diet came in, and I think it did a lot to turn around both the safety of people crossing the road there and the businesses in town. So that is all. Thank you for listening, and again, I implore you to call us with any issues, anything that you'd like to talk about for the city, and be safe and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner Ward.
Hi, just a couple things. The Secretary of State Mobile Unit will be at the Senior Center on September 13th, next week, from 10 to 3 p.m. And you can make transactions like renewing your driver's license or getting an ID or transferring titles, and you can make an appointment for it. So the number to make an appointment is 810-765-3523. So it's a good thing, so you don't have to drive up to Port Huron. And the other thing is, please vote. It is a very important election. Money, whatever, it all affects you. And so please get out and vote and make your opinions known. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Martin.
Do we not have years before we discuss the road diet? I thought,
We have nothing immediately in this year. The next year will be the reconstruction of the road, which does not include the road diet.
Yeah.
And then striping, the next round of striping is generally 4 years before they would do a restriping.
so we won't be looking at it that soon. But I know when I posted it, the people were against it. They also don't like the way St. Clair is. It takes too long to get through. I've sat through that light up there 3 and 4 times trying to get through in there. And it just makes it difficult. I think, and even for emergency vehicles, now they can get around people. Now they'll have one lane. So anyway, I'm not going to bring it up anymore because it's not going to be an issue for some time, correct? Okay. I think that's it.
Okay, great, I just have a couple quick things. There's a CED meeting on August 28th, some discussions that were had at that with a city perception, and improving Marine City's first impression, St. Clair County quilt trail, a new business welcoming packet, and also affordable housing plan discussion. And then also a reminder on September 19th, prior to our regular meeting, we will be having a public hearing on our master plan starting at 6 o'clock. And then I would also like to thank commissioners and the community for their support in the passing of Dave's dad, my father-in-law, Bernie Vanavash. He was a great man, he was a hard worker, and he was a role model which for people that, you know, could live their life by. I had the pleasure of having him a father-in-law since I was 19 years old, so he was a great man. All right, and now can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So Lisa, the only one